What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens mistake people for being employees at places they don't work at. One in which, a very unfortunate Karen, depending on how you look at it I guess, picks a fight with a military veteran. And before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever we upload. Finally got to tell a junk customer how every clerk felt about assisting them. This happened a few years ago, but it felt oh so satisfying. For a period of time, I worked for a New England-based hardware home and garden store. We had a customer that was the most impolite individual, definitely thought of retail people as lower than himself, and treated every clerk with contempt. In this, there's me, the junk customer, and the store manager. Well, my course had changed, and I moved on from said job, and was working as a carpenter and was in that location to buy something for a project I was working on. The uniform at the store was a dark green polo and a dark green fleece as a cover-up. I'm a woodsy guy. Almost all my clothes are brown, tan, duck, black, and green. And this day, I happen to be wearing dark brown pants with a dark green sweatshirt from a local building supply company. Dark green with white labeling of said company. Pretty easy to see it wasn't a store-issued garment with any real observation. I'm in the hardware aisle where there are also lubricants for loosening stuck bolts and whatnot, which I was looking at. This guy walks into the aisle, and I made no notice besides that someone else had entered the space. The customer clears his throat. In my head, I'm thinking, that guy sounds horrible. He clears his throat again before saying, "Excuse me." "Sorry," I respond, thinking I'm blocking the shelving he needs something off, and move over. "No, you're supposed to help me," he says. "No, I am not. I no longer work for this company." "That's bullcrap. I see you in here regularly. You're even wearing a uniform," he says. "This is a insert building company sweatshirt," I say, pointing out the label on my breast. "I haven't worked here for almost a year, and the reason I'm in here regularly is because, like you, it's the closest hardware store to my house." "Well, you're going to help me anyway because you know stuff about what I need." "Nope, in no way is that happening. I didn't get paid enough when I did work here to put up with your crappy attitude, and now that I'm not making any money for this interaction, I'm definitely not putting up with it." "I'm going to tell the store manager about this," said the customer. "And she's going to do what exactly? Hold your hand and tell you it'll be okay? She doesn't hold sway over me, or my actions in this moment, so good luck with that." "I can't believe how rude you are," he said. "That's rich. Are you really that self-unaware? Have you ever not actually thought about why, when I did work here, I was the only one to help you? I'll clue you in. It was because no one else wanted to, and I wanted to keep them from your condescension and entitled attitude." Now, about this time, the store manager had come around to find me, as we have a good relationship and wanted to catch up. She heard a decent amount of what was said on the way over. As she walks into the aisle, the customer turns to her and says, "Your so-called former employee is verbally abusing me and says that no one ever wants to help me because I'm a jerk." Well, the store manager doesn't have much of a filter and responds with, "Well, he is a former employee and hasn't worked here for nearly a year. And frankly, he's not wrong." The look on his face was priceless, and he just harumphed and told her he would take his business elsewhere, which only got a simple, "You do that," from her. We had a good laugh, and the vindication from her coupled with the opportunity to say what I did was fantastic. It's always nice when a manager of a store isn't afraid to lose a customer like this. It seems like too many of them are just too concerned with doing things by the book, and just acting how corporate wants them to act, and putting on this facade of patience and friendliness with all the crappy people they have to deal with. So whenever it's the managers that actually decide to drop the act, it is just so good. Moving on to the main story, this one's called Karen Tangles with a Combat Veteran. Gets more than a handful. I'm a 52-year-old man that works as a butcher at a pork processing plant, and I never encountered a Karen in my hometown. I live in a town of about 20,000 people in southeast Iowa. I've lived here my entire life, minus 6 years that I spent in the military, and serving in Operation Desert Storm. Yeah, it's been 25 years. I was discharged in 1996, but it serves a relevant point, that people always tend to mess with the ones that they know nothing about. The other day, I was at a neighborhood grocery store, we'll call it HV to keep anonymity, and was buying a couple loaves of bread as I had run out. Now at HV, their work uniform is a red polo shirt with the company name embroidered on the left breast area in white, khaki or black pants, and different colored aprons. Black for the deli meat counter, red for floor and front area, green for floral, and white lab coat for the pharmacy. I couldn't have been in the aisle for 10 seconds when I feel a pair of eyes on my shoulder. I turn with a startle, causing the woman directly behind me to give me a frown. I'll call her Karen. And I say, "You know, you shouldn't stand behind people like that. You don't know how they'll react." "I need your help," responded Karen. Stupid me didn't register the way she said that, which should have set off the alarm bells. Now, there are people out there that state their anger is on a short fuse. I don't have a fuse. I have a button. Push it and it's Armageddon. One thing I do have to admit though, I've been pretty good at keeping it suppressed. I'm usually very level-headed. I mean, I'd had enough violence in my life. I would give anything if I could just live in peace. So I say to Karen, "If you want help, you should ask one of the employees." "I am," responded Karen. "Huh?" I said. The realization suddenly hits me like a tank, and that she's talking to me. "Ma'am, I don't work here," I said. I was wearing a black t-shirt, black cargo pants, black socks, and black sneakers. There was nothing about how I was dressed that said I worked there. However, Karen must have been blind as well as deaf. "Don't lie to me, you work here," said Karen. By this time, I can feel myself starting to lose control. This insufferable oaf was wearing my patience thin. "What about my clothes says I work here?" I ask. "You're wearing an employee uniform. You need to help me. Now." Oh, bad move, Karen. Now, I'm about 6'1" and weigh about 210 pounds. I'm not a small guy and my voice is fairly deep, meaning when my volume goes up, I can get very intimidating. So much so, I've made more than a few scared of me. And at this point, manners have gone out the window. I'd had enough. Matching her shrill scream with a booming growl, I say, "What effing part of I don't work here do you not understand, you irritating effing pencil neck?" After Karen loses the surprised look on her face, she balls up her fists and gets this "I'm going to kick your ass" look. I see this, and at the same time, I notice a couple of employees behind me. So I return her look with a "go ahead and try it" look. And I say, "Fair warning, you swing at me like a man, you'd better be prepared to take a punch like a man." Well, Karen relaxes her hands, then she hauls off and slaps me across my face, knocking my glasses off and scraping the bridge of my nose. It did bleed a bit, but the kicker was that she was laughing. Apparently, Karen must have thought I wouldn't do anything. However, she tangled with the wrong guy. She turns to look at me, and I put her on her ass with a slap across her face. "I warned you," I said. Karen decides to play her trump card. "I'm going to have you arrested," she said. I smiled widely and pointed to the security cameras installed in the ceiling to each end of the aisle. "Have a nice day, bitch." I grabbed my 2 loaves of bread and walked up front to pay, while Karen is frog marched to the office in the back of the store. I found out the next day the grocery store decided to suspend her from the establishment for 30 days. Sucks to be her. What I don't understand is how did she only get 30 days suspension from that? You would think that they would permanently ban her for basically assaulting a customer, but I guess not. Like this comment, for example. They said, "That's pretty light. I'm a grocery merchandiser, and the store I work in does not hesitate to trespass scumbags for a year. I know because I have a story that pretty much matches your own, save for the knocking the Karen on her ass. This particular Karen demanded I open up a register for her so she could check out while I was busy adjusting shelf heights. So I got up and pointed to the logo on my work shirt, which was not that of the store, and told her that I didn't work for the store, so I had no access to the registers. Karen gave me the, "Well, you're working here, so you must be a store employee" bit. So I pointed to the logo on my work shirt again and asked if it read the store's name, then went back to my work. Karen says that she knew all along that I was a lazy bum and that she was going to get me fired the moment she talked to the manager. You should have seen the look on her face when the person in charge walked up to her from behind and said that he'd heard the entire conversation and informed her that she was free to leave the store and not come back for a year. Karen demanded that he needs to fire me this very instant. And the person in charge said that he couldn't because I didn't work for the store, and added that she was free to leave and not come back for a year. Karen blubbered like a spoiled baby and stomped off, but not before saying they were going to get everyone in the store if it took the rest of her life. This really goes to show the kind of different reactions you see depending on who's in charge. In this one, no one was hit and there was no violence. Karen just kinda went off on someone, yet the manager still banned her for a year. Rightfully so, I think. But in the other one, where Karen essentially assaulted someone on surveillance footage, she was only banned for a month. I'm the delivery guy, not a porch pirate. My husband and I both work for Amazon Flex, which has freelance drivers deliver packages to different areas that are a little off the beaten path. This way, everyone, even those who live in tiny forgotten towns that are surrounded by cornfields, will get their packages in a timely manner. Today my husband, who I'll refer to as husband, was doing a block in such an area. It's early in the day and the car is full of packages when he entered a small town. It was the kind of place that had a post office, a gas station, an old mill, and a sheriff. It's the place where everyone knows everyone because they're all related by blood or marriage. So when my husband starts making stops at houses in town in an unfamiliar car, everyone noticed. Husband doesn't even realize that he's being watched. It's just another stop on his delivery route. Then he goes to drop a package at a house at the end of a dead-end road. He does the drop at the door, sends the notice to the customer that the package has been delivered, and gets back in the car to go to the next stop. Except the road is now being blocked by a sheriff's car. My husband stops and the sheriff approaches him, telling him that he had received some calls about him, a suspicious man that was going from house to house and had packages in his vehicle. My husband gives him his ID and tells him, "I work for Amazon. I just delivered a package to the house back there. These other packages are for other customers." The sheriff takes a look at my husband's ID, then his phone to take a look at the app. The sheriff then looks at his own phone before going to the house my husband had just left to see if the package was there. The sheriff then looks past my husband and sees someone watching them. My husband described the look the sheriff gave the person as a mix of course, and "Are you effing with me?" The sheriff then tells my husband that he had been accused of being a porch pirate before stomping past my husband to scream at the person watching them. The sheriff apparently not only knew the person who called to report my husband as a porch pirate, but the delivery my husband had just done was to the sheriff at his house. The sheriff went off on the nosy neighbor about don't they have anything better to do, wasting police time, and how, yes, he was sure that husband was telling the truth, since he had received the delivery notice on his phone and the package was on his porch. The sheriff came back to my husband, thanked him for his time, and sent him on his way. My husband was annoyed that he was held up for over 20 minutes, but I think this story was worth it. This comment here is very fitting too. It's not just delivery people that deal with this. They said, "I'm a real estate appraiser and have had several conversations with police and sheriffs about what I'm doing, taking photos of people's recently purchased houses." Now that I actually kind of understand. That actually brings back a memory for me of one time when I was at a friend's house. We saw some guy through the window just walking into the backyard taking pictures of the house. And when we went out there and asked what he was doing, he said he was taking photos for real estate stuff. But there's no way we would have known that if we hadn't gone out there and asked him, because he didn't even bother to knock on the door and tell us what he was doing. Which is a bit weird, but if they don't knock and warn you first, it definitely looks suspicious. But in terms of the Amazon delivery driver, that is definitely just a case of a small town person with nothing better to do. Well, that's going to be a wrap for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and comment down below what you thought of these stories. You guys are all amazing. Thanks again for hanging out today, and I'll see you next time.